You all have your agenda in front of you. Any additions to the agenda? Hearing none, would someone make a motion to accept the agenda as presented? Seconded. All in favor, say aye. Thank you. We'll move down to second and possible final reading of Sewer Bylaw S-084-05, proposed amendment. Is someone prepared to move that to second? Gerard?
I move for the approval of the second and final reading of the sewer bylaw S-084-05.
We have a seconder for that? Any question? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Contrary, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. We also have the South Ohio Wastewater Management Bylaw S-088-97, proposed amendment.
That's just the first reading, isn't it? No, second. I move for the approval of the second and final reading of the South Ohio Wastewater Management Bylaw S-088-97.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Thank you, gentlemen. You have before you the Committee of Public Accounts and Finances. That's for your information. So unless uniform assessment and municipal contribution to corrections and roads. If everybody's fine with that, we'll move on. We'll move down to the review and approval of operating budget for 2014-2015. So I'll turn that over to Mr. Shea, and he can go through the highlights, and if, I would assume take questions afterwards.
Okay, thank you. So this evening we'll go over the operating budget for the municipality for the year ended March 31st, 2015. We've spent the last several months pulling together the budget numbers and working in consultation with our other senior staff members in the administration of the municipality, as well as the CAO and council, and collecting information from other sources and agencies such as the province, who all have their fingers in the municipal budget process. So this is the culmination of a few months' work, and we think it's a very well balanced and a reasonable budget, and certainly allows us to continue to move forward with providing services to the community and keeping engaged in some very interesting economic development and other projects within our region. So I'll just go down it starting at the non-tax revenue section and read out the totals for the subcategories, and I'll highlight if there are any significant variations from last year's budget. I'll try to highlight those. So starting off in the non-taxable revenue section, the assessable property rates for fire and for forest property are $961,657. Special assessments, which are sewer, are budgeted at $274,754. Business property is $204,131. And other taxes is $175,000 to basically the deed transfer tax. And again, there's really no significant changes to these numbers, so there's nothing much to highlight there. Grants in lieu of taxes is budgeted at $32,720. Services to other governments, $458,969. A small increase in anticipated revenues from leisure services, provision of programs over the course of the next year from that department. Other revenue from own sources, which is a hodgepodge of miscellaneous permits, fees, licenses, interest revenues, rental revenues, is $674,954. It's budgeted up a little bit more from last year, largely from additional rents earned at the industrial park. Unconditional transfers from other governments, $152,784. Conditional transfers from federal and the provincial governments, $462,471, which is, the budget is down considerably from last year. This is essentially gas tax funds. Last year was a bit of an unusual year where we had some funds coming in from the federal government for some programs that we were operating that are now wound down and no longer funded. Other revenues, other transfers is $24,374. That's a small item, but it's new from last year, and that's monies that we intend to draw in from reserves to help fund our contributions to the hospital scanner project. So the total revenues, the total non-tax revenues are budgeted to be $3,421,814.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To Greg, if we go back to the gas tax transfer program,
Yes.
just can you refresh my mind? How does the federal government, or the federal government gives it to the province gives it to us? How is that calculated? Because I noticed it roughly at $20,000 different from last year, and you explained that there were some different projects there, but where do they come up with the 465 right off?
Well, I'm not sure how they allocate it federally, but this is a provincial allotment, and the provincial allotment is down, I think, 4.8% this year.
Overall, okay.
If you'll just give me a minute here. They don't explain the rationale, they just explain that Nova Scotia's share of the funds from the federal government are down 4.8%.
Okay, so it's across the board. It is just in because some municipal unit doesn't do a project or doesn't
No,
use it.
no.
It's okay. It's
So
right across the board.
at the time of the budget preparation, we're not given a hard number.
Okay.
So I used the 4.8% overall reduction that they've told us is going to happen, and I applied it to our receipts from last year. But it will be right in that range, probably, give or take a couple thousand, a few thousand. So we didn't have a hard number, so I extrapolated with what they said the overall reduction was percentage-wise for all,
Okay.
which is 4.8%.
Okay.
So that's why it's down from last year's actual.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. On now the expenditure side, we'll spend a little time and go through that. We'll start with general government services, legislative, budgeted at $224,400, actually down a little bit from last year's budget. General administration, $881,813, very consistent with last year's budget. No significant changes to note there that I can see. Continues to be a little bit of pressure on the admin building with electricity rates and other service charges, but other than that, it's fairly consistent with last year's budgeted number. Financial management, $50,000. That's audit and legal. Taxation, $293,426. This number is going up some. You'll see a new line item or a new number there, $41,671 in other taxation. This is a new area for us where we're forging new agreements with our partner municipalities and some tax sharing arrangements, and we'll be having to make contributions back to them on some of the commonly owned properties with those, and so we're going to funnel those through that account there. Other general government services, $255,975. It's a significant drop from last year's budget, and the significant drop is due largely to a reduction in grants to organizations, which is $120,992 versus last year's $202,000. Last year was an extremely unusual year in terms of demands and requests for not only grants, but also the size of grants from the organizations that applied. So it was a bit of an anomaly year. There were some large things happening that we contributed in through that line category, and this year it's coming back down to more historical levels. The next page is protective services, which is essentially RCMP, DNA and corrections, $1,050,313.
Chair? Me? I'm sorry. I guess for me, we're allowed to stop and ask questions if we go.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. If we can go back to other general government services, please.
Sure.
Lighthouse expenses
Yes.
of 35.
Yes.
I know we own the property. Can you just give me a quick update on what expenses we carry over there? What,
That expense is intended to carry a groundskeeper for the summer. It's intended to carry the insurance,
okay,
some repairs in some facilities repairs in the structures that are there.
okay,
And those are the major items.
okay. And that would be, if I may, that would be like for getting it winter ready and so on, and then getting it ready for in the spring?
Yeah, there's insurance, there's some fuel in the gift shop. Again, like I said, Director of Works had identified some inside repairs estimated around $5,000 need to be done, and I said we have allowed for summertime help.
Okay,
One summertime student or groundskeeper to do the grounds maintenance and hopefully some light carpenter work. So that all comes up to, and we have another little miscellaneous in there for $5,000 because there's always some unforeseens and some unknowns that happen. That brought us to $35,000, which is still below what we've historically used to fund the lighthouse.
okay,
Now, I will say that the grant that the lighthouse asked for and we granted is in the grants number now. It's not in this number.
okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So we were on RCMP, and it's a number that's given to us by contract, and it even seems to increase a little bit each year beyond our control. But this year it's $1,050,000, 313. Actually, not slightly. It's only slightly higher than last year's budget. Fire protection is $1,090,058. Nothing significant to note there, I don't think. Emergency measures, $21,991. That is our share of that organization's, that's cost shared with the town. Other protective services, $284,986. This is up a little bit due to increases in staffing that took place last year, and now we're on board for a full year. Continuing demands on development have also forced us into making provision of vehicles, and they have more miles on the road, which causes an increase in our mileage charges. And those are probably the largest items in there that you'll see any significant increase in. Animal and pest control, $31,008. Transportation, $453,937. Pretty close to last year's budget, including the airport is included in this total. Streetlights, $290,000. It's up significantly from last year. There was a double-digit increase in rates. As what everyone knows, is Nova Scotia Power continues to push rate increases through on everyone, particularly the non-residential sector that typically seem to be in double digits. So that's up considerably. Public Works, $366,711. Small increase from last year's budget. Again, the highlight on that, I guess, is a little bit more of an increase in wages than probably the 1.4 CPI, because there was also a staff member or two there that came on throughout the year last year, and now will be on starting their first full years of service in this year. But no real big changes in the operating expense line items. Environmental health and services, that's sewage collection and disposal, garbage collection and disposal, recycling, $1,027,474. Small increase in tipping fees. The town has proposed an increase this year in tipping fees to make some adjustments in their cost base that they're passing along to the users. That's probably the most significant item there. Waste Check also has doubled their budget, so that's an item to note. Public Health and Welfare Services, $196,394. Overall, it's down slightly from last year's budget, but the Health and Human Resources line item you'll see is up a little bit because of our continued participation in doctor recruitment, and also our participation in funding the family residency program that the hospital is underway. And we're starting to see some savings in the medical clinics as they begin to fill up. Environmental Development Services, District Planning, $71,375. Again, there's a new planner, I believe, that's been taken on board full-time there, which has caused a bump in our what we had paid in the past for that service. Industrial Parks, $139,365. We're continuing to see some improvements and savings and efficiencies in the Industrial Commission, so that number is down a little over $20,000 from previous year's budget. Other Environmental Development Services, $255,814. The significant note there is the new initiatives we plan to undertake in terms of economic development, with both the, I guess, the establishment and the onset, the startup of the REN, which we're participating in with other units, and also initiatives we'd like to begin with our own internal economic development activities. Recreation, $777,388. Culture and Recreation Facilities, $1,500. And Fiscal Services interest on the long-term debt is $143,058 as per our amortization schedules. Principal and long-term debt is on schedules as well, and that's $142,500. Transfers to own reserves, funds, and agencies, $930,951. Conditional transfers to other governments. The Mariners Center is of note in this item. It's, well, the total, I guess, for conditional transfers is $2,231,235. There's a bit of a jump in the Mariners Center where they have a capital works project planned for this year over and above their normal operations, which we expect to have to make a contribution towards. So that's included in our budget line item as long as our share of funding whatever deficits they've budgeted for. District School Board, of course, that continues to keep going up. It takes a big chunk of our, bigger chunk of our budget every year, and now it's at $1,999,617. Contingency for unforeseens is set at $35,000. So the total operating expenditures for the year are budgeted to be $11,246,672, which is a 0.3% increase over last year's budget.
Were there any questions on the expenditures before Greg goes into the revenue? Councilor?
Right, the new Public Works building, those dollars will be coming out of the Capital Reserve Fund?
That's where they tend to get funded out of capital reserves, yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
over time. Yeah.
Thanks, Warden. Greg, thanks a lot for sitting in the hot seat there. I just have a couple of questions around what we're seeing in terms of costs associated with the industrial park. I'm wondering specifically about that CSC building that's there.
Mm-hmm.
What's that cost us on an annual basis?
It's probably costing us in the $25,000 range, plus or minus now each year, to service that building while it's sitting there.
And how long's that been vacant?
About a year and a half, I think.
And just out of curiosity, how many resident companies do we have in that industrial park?
We have two tenants.
Two tenants.
And we have a couple of private interests in there.
Okay. And Web.com, of course, is...
Web is our largest tenant, of
lion's
course.
share.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Excellent. Thanks.
Okay, Greg, carry
Okay.
on. Yeah.
All right. So, so what we do then is we kind of work backwards a little bit to try to figure out what we need to fill the gap. And there's a worksheet that I think is in part of your package that is essentially a summary of the operations budget. And it culminates in two or three options that we decide to present to you. it's always good to have options, and there's a myriad of options you could select, but these ones are practical ones that we thought were worth looking at in order to balance our budget. And what we would propose this year to balance the budget would be, so there's three options on the sheet. If you look at it at the bottom, there's what would happen if we didn't change our rates. What would happen if we increased our rates by a penny, and what would happen if we increased them by 2 cents. So we looked at it and considered it and discussed it, and I think what we would propose to do this year for our budget would be to propose a 1 cent increase in the residential rate only, and a 0 cent increase in commercial rates. If we did that based on the assessment that we have now to work with, we would raise revenues of $7.685 million. That would still leave us a shortfall of $139,751, and so what we would propose is to pull that of prior year's surpluses. This budget also includes a 5% increase in the sewer rate charges, the operating charges. If we did not increase it, we would incur additional deficits, greater deficits. We didn't change the rate at all. We'd have a deficit of a little over 200,000 to contend with. And if we were a little more aggressive and wanted to increase it by 2 cents on the residential, it would decrease our deficit, but would still be in the $79,000 range. So I think a happy medium is the 1 cent. So that's what we have to present to you in terms of this year's operating budget.
Oh, thanks, Greg. Just for clarification, our current tax rate is $1.15, and that's per $100 of assessed property value.
Yeah.
So if we talk about a 1 cent increase to somebody that that pays, let's say on average, $2,000 a year in property taxes, that would be a $20 annual increase.
Yeah. Not even that much, like $2.
A little less because we're over 1 there. Okay, thank you.
Okay, council, you've heard the budget. What's the wishes of council? Are you prepared to accept this budget as presented? John?
It's my understanding as per this, our agenda, that we don't go ahead and approve the residential and commercial rates for 2014, 2015 until we reach item 5.6. Is that correct?
No, what we need now is a motion to approve the budget itself, the budget document. How you fund that will be in 5.6. So the actual document that Greg just reviewed would be in order. Motion to approve that.
Well, then I so move that we approve the budget document as presented.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? We have a motion. It's been. Go ahead.
Right, and as you're well aware, I didn't vote in favor of the capital plan, and the capital plan included the municipal works building, and of course that is connected to this budget.
No, it's not. Not at all. Your capital plan was approved about 2 months ago and submitted to the province. This is your operational budget only.
Well, the funds for that facility are coming out of the capital reserve fund eventually. So that capital reserve fund could have been reduced if we weren't funding the municipal works building over the next couple of years. Is that not correct?
I think you're mixing apples and oranges. This is the annual operating budget that we're reviewing here. The capital budget and capital plan was done a few months back and submitted to the province as required. That deals with capital items of capital nature only. This is the operational budget. There's, we budget for capital reserves based on what we feel we can afford to budget for in terms of having funds to put in there, and also with some other obligations we have, like the gas tax funds going in there. But there's not a direct connection to our capital projects. That capital project, like the CAO said, is done through the capital investment plan and the capital budget. And when we do that, you agree ultimately on the projects that you're going to undertake and how they're going to be funded. And they're funded in different ways: capital reserve fund, operating refunds, or term financing. So it's really not entirely accurate to suggest that that's the way you're reading it, Councillor, because the capital reserve, it could have been any other number. It's not necessarily related to what's in the capital plan in any given year.
Yeah, I understand. I understand what you're saying from a technical perspective, but nonetheless, what I've indicated does make sense. Dollars have got to come from somewhere, so I'll make that comment. I understand the technicality of the accounting and that those are separate pieces, and I did, in fact, not vote for the capital plan for said reason. So,
Yeah.
given that, I'm on record as having said that, and we'll continue on.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion? Question being called on accepting the operating budget as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Contrary, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. We will now move on down to the fire department and volunteer fire departments and their area rates. So, to
Three is actually year months.
but the rest are.
Greg, could you identify fire departments a different number? We're only on the schedule is F1, F2. Okay, sure, I can do that. F1, do you want to, F1 is Carlton.
Okay.
F2 is Port Maitland.
Yeah.
F3 is Yarmouth.
Yeah.
F4 is Lakes and District.
Yeah.
F5 is Lake Vaughan. F6 is Valley and District. And 7 is Kemptville.
Okay, so instead of doing them individually, I'll read the individual rates with each fire department, and in the motion you can just specify, like, whoever makes the motion, if you're prepared to accept them and put it into one. John?
Mr. Chair, I have all those figures in front of me. If you want me just to list them off. I do have one question, though, about, before we go ahead with this. It's the Kentville fire rate. They have the rate unchanged at 8 cents. However, they have a special rate of 3 cents for an additional period. And I know what that's for. How do I go about making that a motion? Do I just make it as, like, say, to accept the 8 cent fire rate with a special rate of 3 cents? I know it's a technicality, but in all reality, it's 11 cents. But the special rate, I do realize that that's staying on for a specific period of time. So I'm just wondering the optics of that.
Yeah, the special rate would be in and out anyway, so it's not, it won't affect the bottom line on that.
So do I, or whoever makes that motion specifically point out a 3 cent special rate?
Do you have that information as well, Greg?
I think if you're going to recognize the rates, you should recognize them all. There's a couple of them that have got capital rates.
Yeah, there's actually, there's that one, there's Lake Vaughan.
Yeah, that's the only two, I think.
Yeah,
So
those are
you
the
should
only two.
mention those as well in the motion, perhaps, so that
I
they're
think they
covered.
should be included.
They will be in and out, but mention them in the motion.
All right.
Okay, Counselor, are you prepared?
Yes, I am.
If you have that information, why don't you just include that in your motion? Just give the rates for each fire department, and then we'll get a seconder, hopefully.
All right, Mr. Chair, then I so move the approval of 11 cents per 100 assessment for the Carlton and District Volunteer Fire Department.
Just do them all, one
All right,
motion.
you want them
Okay,
all as
sure.
once? I also, in that motion, include an assessment of 14 cents per 100 for the Port Maitland Fire Department, 17 cents per 100 for the Lakes and Districts Fire Department, 8 cents per 100 for the Valley and District Fire Department, 8 cents per 100 for the Kemptville Fire Department, along with a special rate of 3 cents per 100 addition for a capital, is it a capital purchase. A second, I just lost my spot here. Also,
Lake Vaughan.
yeah, Lake Vaughan, that's the one I was looking for. Lake Vaughan, I move that we accept the 11 cents per 100 for operating and an additional 2 cents per 100 for capital. That's the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder for that?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Thank you, gentlemen. We will now move on down to approval of sewer rates for 2014, 2015, which are Hebron, Dayton, Port Maitland, South Ohio, and Arcadia. Okay. I'm going to back up. John, you didn't, the Yarmouth wasn't included in there, was it? That was just the volunteer ones, right? No. So would you or somebody be prepared to do the Yarmouth town one, which we buy service from for 30% of our residents at 16 cents? Thank you. Do we have a second? All in favor, say aye. Contrary, nay. Thank you. Sorry about that. And we'll move down to the sewer rates now. Councillor Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is the sewer rates in our discussion is set at $3.13 per unit per year? I will make a motion to do a 5% increase to that, to bring it to $328.65. Is that the, yeah, to $326. Excuse me, $328.65 per unit for the.
Thank you, Councillor.
Should that be for 2 years? Pardon me? That for 2 years? Yeah, that's what I thought, it was for this,
Okay.
just this year's. Also make that a motion, Mr. Chair. All those.
Do we have a seconder for that? Okay, sure.
5% from 313 to 328.65 per year, per unit.
Any further discussion?
Question.
Question? Sure. Go ahead.
I'd just like to, just for the benefit of people that don't have all the information that we have, I think it's important to understand that that our team, financial team, has looked at the actual costs associated with operating our sewer infrastructure, and when we do that analysis, we find a shortfall of in the neighborhood of $40,000 that needs to be recouped, and that's basically what's leading to this to this sewer rate increase. So we explored a few options, and this particular option will sort of allow us to recoup that those funds over the next 3 years roughly. So, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Any further discussion? Question being called, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Contrary, nay. Motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll move down to, we need a motion to approve the grants to organizations for the year 2014, 2015. Is someone prepared to do that? Councillor Churchill?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we approve the various grants to the various organizations for 2014, 2015.
Seconded. Any discussion?
Question.
Question being called, all in favor say aye. Contrary, nay. We'll move down to, excuse me, approval of the residential and commercial rates for 2014, 2015. You had a recommendation there from staff, so Councillor Cunningham.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I make the motion to increase the residential tax rate by 1 cent to $1.16 per 100 assessment, and to leave the commercial tax rate at $2.15 per 100 assessment.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of, pardon, sorry, go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Before we move to that vote, I just wanted to pick out a couple of specifics in our budget this year that was sort of referenced fairly quickly. That's a pretty substantial departure from where we've been in the past, and that really centers around economic development. You know, I'm not sure if everyone's had the chance to look at the municipal indicator report that's come out recently. It's available on the Service Nova Scotia website, and now these are to be taken with a grain of salt, but one of really the only substantial sort of red flag that our municipality got in that overview, which looks at sort of a macroscopic look at the financial condition of the municipality, at least according to that model. And our red flag is around commercial development in our municipality. Kudos to our financial team again, saw that coming, and we've been talking for some time about getting a local a local economic development person that could help, and to take a small example like the CSC building, this is a state-of-the-art facility that's empty, and it's there in our industrial park, and the reality is we don't have anyone on staff currently who's got within their mandate to go out there and fill that space. We have one of the largest internet companies in the world that's housed in our municipality, which is really an amazing thing, with web.com, and then we've got that vacant building next door. So that's just one small example of why we're making this investment in local economic development. And if we look at what happens now when we bring someone on board, we've sort of got their salary, basically salary plus benefits, in our budget, but what we don't have are some of the just the operating expenses that will go along with developing our local economy. And I think it's really important that at this time that we sort of double down on economic development. We saw with the Ivany report coming out the importance of fostering entrepreneurship, of fostering innovation, even in our rural communities. We have those talents locally, and I think we need to do whatever we can to help nurture that, foster that. So that to me is what what that investment in economic development is about. And I think that, moving towards this 1 cent increase is a way to make sure that we're not drawing funds from our surplus, but rather actually sharing as a community, sharing in the costs associated with that economic development. So.
Yeah, I won't be voting in favor of the 1% or the 1 cent rather rate increase. I think we need to, live within our means, and again, I don't think that the ratepayer needs to be burdened with that additional 1 cent at this increase at this juncture.
Yes, I'm in agreement with Councillor Cunningham. I'm not going to be able to vote for this myself either. I have a lot of phone calls from people in my district, and my district is a lot of seniors and a lot of low-income families, and I just don't feel that we should burden them with this little bit of an increase. I mean, oil prices are so high now, electricity's high, and I just don't feel that we should burden them with this increase. So I'm going to vote against it too.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And what I'm about to say is probably going to cause a little bit of a firestorm in all reality. I've sat on this council since 2008, and our tax rate has actually dropped, the residential rate, from what we're moving it to, $1.16 to $1.15. And first and foremost, I'd like to thank staff in the previous council and this council for keeping a close eye on things and expenditures that we've had over the years. Also, over those years that I sat on council, I didn't say it the first year because I really didn't know what I was into, but the second year I had stated I'm not very comfortable with taking money out of the capital reserve to balance the budget. I've always said that. And I said it this time, and I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it in public. In all reality, this deficit of, not deficit, but removing out of capital reserves of $139,751, as a business person, I really think that money should be staying there for projects that possibly that we should be moving forward on, whether it be a confit. We really got to sit down and figure out where we're going to move. I just had this conversation earlier with one of my fellow councilors that we've really got to sit down. There's a lot of new line items in here, like the local development officer. That's a plus. That's something that was flagged in our municipal report card, a red flag, that we weren't moving forward with that. Well, we're moving on that, and I'm very proud to say that. But that takes money. That's going to be another, in this year alone, budgeted another $75,000. It's now or never, like the deputy warden said. Do I want to increase it? No, I don't. I really don't. But the business side of me says we really should increase it more. And by these figures that have been put forward to us, in all reality, to get a truly balanced budget, it should have to go up by 3.5 cents. Think about that. If we had something that come up and we had no capital reserve left to bank on, we would have to raise our tax rate right now by 3.5% or cut. Maybe some of these projects won't be. I believe a 1 cent tax increase is a medium, a good median, or a good starting point. But just keep in the back of your minds that eventually, if we have to, we're going to have to draw on those capital reserves. We are. I do commend staff for keeping a very close eye on this, saving costs where they can, and you've done a remarkable job since I've been sitting on council. However, we really should think about where we're going, because eventually we're gonna get nipped in the butt. And this 1 cent increase is gonna be nothing compared to what it could be in the future. And that's just my own opinion. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Any further discussion? Councillor Anthony?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to elaborate, but I'll start off. We as councillors have 3 positions. We are a resident, we are the elected official, and we also are the keepers of the municipality. As a resident, we never want taxes to go up. Every Thursday morning when we go to the gas pump, we are upset. Once in a while, we're happy because the price goes down. But we are the taxpayers, and we are the ones that have to stivvy under the burden of taxation. And nobody likes taxation. So there, we fill that role. As the elected official, we sit here and are here to represent our residents as Councillor Churchill and Councillor Cunningham are doing, which I am doing, the Deputy Warden, John is doing, Gerard and Murray. We want to make sure that we do not go out and not do the proper job. And therein lies the word, the proper job. You are here to do a job for the residents. We have the opportunity, we are the ones who listen, know, and do the day, not the day-to-day, but we do the running of the municipality. We have staff that give us the figures. We have staff that run the operation, whether it's leisure services, whether it's development office, whether it is public works, etc., etc. And I feel we have to juggle that position. And or myself in that position, right now, I can honestly support a 1% or a 1 cent increase because I am here to make sure, and there's the word, to make sure that this municipality does not fall into some of the unforeseen and bad situations that some other municipalities have fallen. Hansport, Bridgetown, and the list goes on, that are going to have to amalgamate or be swallowed up by some other municipal unit because, and I shouldn't say it in this way, maybe the councillors there did not take the proactive approach, as Councillor John Cunningham said, and as Deputy Warden Steve Paquette said. We got to look forward and so on. And I feel that this municipality in 2009 took 1 cent off. We are only coming back to where we were back in 2009. And I feel very comfortable. As I said, I'm also a resident. This 1 cent affects me too. It affects me too as a resident. But I'm sitting here as the elected official to make sure that this municipal unit operates on a go-forward basis. And I can sit here and feel very comfortable that I'm doing my job and I'm doing the proper job. Thank you.
I wish I could add to what Steve and John and Leland said, but sorry, I can't. But anyways, I'm all in favor for the 1 cent. I will vote for it.
Okay, gentlemen, no further discussion? Trevor, go ahead. Sorry.
Excuse me, I just wanted to make,
Oh, I'm sorry, Greg.
I want to just make a point of clarification. It's not my place to give opinions. It's for you guys to do. But I just want to clarify on something that maybe it's insignificant, but to me, I'm part of staff, and I guess I could be considered a technocrat, I suppose, and this is a bit of a technical item. So I just want to clarify that the statement that we are funding the balance of the deficit out of capital reserves, that's not correct. In fact, I'll be the first to admit I'm not totally familiar with the MGA, but I don't think we're even allowed legally to fund operating losses out of the capital reserves. What we're intended to balance the budget with is to fund them from prior years' accumulated surpluses and operating funds, which is quite a difference from capital reserves.
So that is different from capital.
Yes, the capital reserves are not drawn on for that type of expenditure. So that, I wanted to just make sure that was clear in case anybody noticed it, because it wouldn't be quite accurate if it was reported that way. And in fact, it's not unprecedented to try to balance your budget with contributions coming from prior years' accumulated surpluses. And in fact, we have a good history here of not having to use that at the end of the day.
Thank you, Craig. Okay. I guess Trevor first, and then John.
Yeah, I guess part of the municipal indicators as well is that we've traditionally under budgeted, or I guess underspent the budget. So I mean that likely fairly conservative accounting practices, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We're outside the threshold according to the municipal indicators, but in any event, that mitigates against, or I'd argue that makes some argument or mitigates against the cent increase. But I will say, one of the line items on the operating budget is $133,000 in interest on the admin building. And I mean, if we keep on building buildings that people don't necessarily want, I think that's what I'm hearing out there. We'll need to raise taxes again. So that would be my final comment.
Yeah, I just want to thank Greg for clarifying that, because I did ask that question again, and for some reason this capital reserve thing is stuck in my head. It's from surpluses, and I appreciate you correcting me again on that. Sometimes things do not stop at the years and go right out through the other one, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
I feel obliged to just respond a little bit to Councillor Cunningham with respect to the capital expenditure around the Public Works building. We had quite a great deal of discussion about that. We heard from staff the importance of having that building in order to ensure that our own equipment is well maintained and out of the weather when it can be, and that's sort of the impetus behind that building. And I think it, quite frankly, I think it does all of us a bit of a disservice to link that with some old issues around this municipal building. That happened before I got here, but I still hear the ripple effect of the building and some of the issues brought up at that time. I don't see, I can't say one way or another or comment on this building, but I don't see those two buildings as being related in any way other than the fact that they're both would be owned by our municipality. So I wanted just to make that comment. Thanks.
Question being called. All in favor of the raising the 1 cent on the tax rate, say aye. Aye. Contrary, nay. Motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen. You all brought good points, and that's the point of council. Like, if we always agreed on everything, we wouldn't be doing our job. So, and it's always a tough issue. Yeah, so that's why you're sitting in those seats. Yeah, where am I here? The appointment of a joint police advisory committee member. Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I make a motion to appoint Mr. Bill Carroll to the Joint Police Advisory Committee.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Question being called. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Contrary, nay. Thank you. You have there free information. I don't think it'd be appropriate to make a decision on that tonight, but you have an email there from the Hospital Foundation. So we could table that. Is there no objections? Okay. We'll move down to, you have your committee reports in front of you. If any questions of any of the committee members, John, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The PAC had postponed our meeting here that was supposed to be held earlier this week. However, I just received an email from our district planner, Brad, that we will be holding a public information meeting with an Industry Canada official, Mr. Hastings, his name is. This is to explain the process regulating communication towers. The invitation has also been sent out to representatives of Bell, Eastlink, Telus, and Rogers. This meeting is going to be taking place this Monday, June the 2nd at 7 o'clock. This is a public information meeting for councillors. I believe some of you are going away to FCM, if I'm not mistaken, so obviously some of you cannot attend. This is also going to be invitations sent out to the public and PAC members. So there's been a lot of questions regarding cell towers because actually we all know that we passed a motion to amend our land use bylaws in the Carlton Village zone, allowing communications towers. I shouldn't call them just cell towers because they're actually communications towers in the Carlton Village zone. That was seen as an oversight when we were going through the allowed uses. And Mr. Carroll will be having a presentation on the responsibilities and the federal jurisdiction on stuff like this. So it's going to be very informative, and hopefully those that can attend will attend. That's going to be June the 2nd at 7 p.m. at the Rotary Center building. Right up here, yes, correct.
Okay. I plan on attending, John, unless something comes up. You're going?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So
Also, there's no report to on the agenda regarding YASTA. However, those of you that don't know, we have, as of a week, today, we have appointed Neil McKenzie as the new general manager of YASTA. He's sitting in and falling into place very nicely. I've had 3 or 4 phone calls on initiatives and things that have been going on, and something that's come up over the past little bit. So he's doing so far, from what I can tell, a bang-up job. Unfortunately, I have not been able to spend as much time in the office as I have been over the past week, but I plan on being in there tomorrow and getting him up to speed as much as I can. So far, I'm quite pleased with what we've seen so far. And if any of you have any questions, comments, concerns, projects, anything at all, feel free to drop into the YASTA office and have a talk with him. And also, one thing I would like to go on record as saying is thanking Charles Robichaud for taking over that position on the interim for the past 6 months. I know it was very stressful for him. However, he did a remarkable job. He had a little bit of problems with budgetary things, but not knowing what you're going to get year to year is very difficult. And actually, one of the first things that me and the new GM and I spoke to him today about was that we're going to be looking for continued funding for YASTA over a 3-year period minimum. The reason being is budgetary, but doing up a budget with not knowing how much you're getting year to year is extremely difficult. And we've seen what happened last year with some municipalities not contributing as much over the last year, or as much as their partners. And this year we've already seen what's happened. This year in our budget, our municipality has penciled in $70,000. However, as you're all aware, the town has only committed $60,000. I don't think, as chairman of YASTA, now's the time to really be pushing this area, especially with the largest economic driver coming up and down that harbor over the past few years. We really have to be promoting our area with different things that we have going on, like our guides, advertisements, and things like that. We really have to push. However, we've already spoken to the mayor and the CAO of the town about that, and hopefully they will change their mind. So that's all I have to say on YASTA. And actually, our next YASTA scheduled meeting is for the 23rd of June. So if any of you would like to attend and sitting in on the board meeting, you're more than welcome.
thank you, Councillor.
Also, there's one more thing. We're not exactly sure when YASTA's AGM meeting is going to be held. We're just finalizing that right now, and we'll be sending out a email and advertising that as soon as we tie down a date with all of our industry partners and different things like that. Thank you.
Any other committee reports stand out? No questions? Okay, motion for adjournment is in order. Seconded?